child stood at the cliff edge, her small body silhouetted against 3 moons. Behind her, the royal procession had stopped. Every winged citizen of Etheros could fly from birth. Every child except one. Nira stepped back from the edge. The queen's voice carried no panic, only the iron certainty of command. The girl didn't move. Her arms spread wide, mimicking the wing motions she'd studied for 6 years. The wind pulled at her ceremonial robes, the ones without the traditional back slits. No wings meant no slits. No slits meant no belonging. Captain Theron's hand moved to his pulse blade. Not to threaten the child, to calculate the dive speed he'd need to catch her before she hit the canyon floor 3,000 feet below. His wings tensed beneath his armor. "She won't jump," the human ambassador said quietly. Every head turned. Ambassador Marcus Chin stood apart from the Etherean delegation, his wingless frame somehow steady in the buffeting wind that made even the strongest flyers adjust their stance. He'd been assigned to Etheros for 2 years, long enough to learn their language but not their customs. Long enough to be ignored. "You presume to understand my subjects?" Queen Sarai's violet eyes fixed on him. "I understand, fathers." Marcus stepped forward, and 3 guards immediately blocked his path. He stopped, hands visible and open. "I have a daughter, back on Earth. Same age as Nira." The queen's wing crests flared, surprise quickly masked. "Then you know she stands at the edge of despair. I know she stands at the edge of possibility." Theron had seen many species attempt to navigate Etherean politics. Most failed through ignorance. The clever ones failed through presumption. This human seemed determined to fail through both. "Captain, remove the ambassador from... Your Majesty, I request permission to speak with the child." Marcus didn't raise his voice, didn't plead, simply stated fact, as if permission was inevitable. Nira's arms remained outstretched. "You have 30 seconds, the queen said. "Terran, if she leans forward, dive." Marcus walked to the cliff edge. The guard's wings rustled, nervous energy seeking release. Theron calculated angles. Wind speed, drop velocity. 30 seconds wasn't enough time for trust, but it was enough time for disaster. "Your name is Nira?" Marcus asked in carefully accented Etherean. The girl's head turned slightly, purple eyes like her mother's, but smaller, frightened. "I can't fly," she whispered. "Neither can I. You're supposed to be grounded, and you're Etherean. You're supposed to have wings." Marcus stood beside her, not touching, not crowding. "But we're both here anyway. Everyone else can fly. Even the youngest hatchlings. I'm broken. You're different. Different isn't broken." Nira's arms lowered slightly. "Mother says I'm still valuable, that I'm still loved. But when we travel, I ride in the cargo transport while everyone else flies. When we hunt, I wait at camp. When we celebrate, I watch from the ground while they dance in the clouds. That sounds lonely." "It is." The wind caught her words, tried to steal them. "So I thought, if I can't fly, why be Etherean at all?" The queen's hand rose, hold position. Every guard locked their muscles, fighting instinct. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, "My daughter's name is Emma. She was born without the ability to walk. Her legs don't work the way other children's do." Nira looked at him directly now. "Where I come from, we have mountains. Not as tall as these cliffs, but tall enough." Emma loved mountains. Loved the idea of standing at the peak above everything, but she couldn't climb. Her wheelchair couldn't handle the terrain. The other kids would go on hiking trips and she'd stay behind. What did she do? She got angry, scared, told me she was broken. Marcus crouched now, eye level with the child. "So I built her wings." The queen's posture shifted. Theron had served her for 15 years. He recognized fascination when he saw it. "Not wings for flying," Marcus continued. "I built a machine that fits around her body. It has powerful arms that grip rock, legs that lock into crevices. She calls it her spider rig. Last summer she climbed Mount Rainier, 14,000 feet. She climbed a mountain. She conquered it. And you know what she told me at the summit?" Nira shook her head. She said, "Dad, I didn't get here the same way everyone else did. I got here better." The child's eyes were wet now. "But you're human. You have hands that build things? What can I build?" Wrong question. Marcus stood, offered his hand. Not to pull her back, just to offer connection. "The question is, what will you build?" Behind them, the entire royal procession held its breath, don't understand. Yes, you do. You've been studying flight mechanics for 6 years. You know aerodynamics better than any flyer because you had to learn it intellectually, not instinctively. You understand wind resistance, lift ratios, wing load distribution. Am I right? Then you don't need to fly like they do. You need to fly like you do. There is no way. There is always a way. It just hasn't been invented yet. Marcus smiled. And inventors need to stand on solid ground, not cliff edges. So what do you say? Want to build something impossible? Nira's hand slipped into his. The Queen's wings folded with a snap that echoed across the canyon. Captain Theron, escort them both to the royal workshop, immediately. Theron moved forward as Nira stepped back from the edge, her small hand still gripping the human's fingers. The captain's tactical mind cataloged the interaction. 30 seconds, 0 aggression, complete de-escalation. Impressive. Also dangerous. Because now the Queen was invested. And Queen Sarai's investments always carried consequences. The workshop towers rose from Atheros' capital like crystal fingers reaching toward the sky. Inside, the air smelled of oil, ozone, and the sharp tang of worked metal. Nira's eyes went wide. We use this for repairing flight armor, the Queen explained, her voice echoing off vaulted ceilings, and occasionally for experimental purposes. Marcus walked the perimeter, his engineer's gaze cataloging equipment. You have fabrication units, composite molding, pressure chambers. He stopped at a terminal, fingers hovering over controls he clearly wanted to touch but knew better than to activate. Your Majesty, with your permission, I'd like to see your materials library. Theron, grant him access. The captain approached the console, wings tucked tight in the confined space. He'd spent 3 decades learning to read threats. The human ambassador radiated none of the usual markers. No elevated pulse visible at the throat, no excessive perspiration, no vocal stress. Either Marcus Chen was genuinely confident, or he was exceptionally skilled at deception. Theron activated the library. Don't touch anything without permission. Wouldn't dream of it. Marcus's eyes scanned the holographic displays. Nira, come look at this. The child approached cautiously. She'd been silent since leaving the cliff, processing. Theron recognized the signs. Shock settling into determination. He'd seen it in young warriors after their first real battle. What do you see? Marcus asked her. Materials. Metals, composites, fabrics. Now, what do you know about weight ratios in flight? Nira's voice grew stronger. Wing surface area must support body mass. For every 10 pounds of body weight, you need approximately 8 square feet of wing membrane at standard atmospheric pressure. More at higher altitudes. Marcus grinned. Excellent. And what's your weight? 42 pounds. So you'd need about 34 square feet of wing surface. Now, traditional Etherian wings are biological. They grow with the body, self-repair, respond to neural commands. We can't replicate that, but we can do something different. He pulled up specifications for a lightweight carbon lattice. What if we built a frame that distributes weight across your shoulders and spine, powered by compressed gas jets for thrust, with control surfaces you operate manually? That's Nira's face scrunched in concentration. That's not flying. That's mechanical propulsion. Quote, it's controlled movement through air. Isn't that what flying is? Said Henry. The Queen moved closer, her own wings spreading slightly in unconscious interest. You're proposing a machine? For a child? I'm proposing freedom. Marcus met her gaze without flinching. Your Majesty, I've watched your people for 2 years. Flight isn't just transportation here. It's identity. It's belonging. Nira doesn't need to fly like you. She needs to fly like herself. Not from expectation of violence, from uncertainty. In 3 decades of service, he'd learned that uncertainty was more dangerous than any weapon. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then, show me a design. Theron stood watch, observing the strange collaboration between alien child and human engineer. The Queen came and went, silent as shadow, her purple eyes tracking every measurement and calculation. The weight is the problem, Nira said around midnight. If we use standard metals, the frame alone would be 60 pounds. I can't lift that. Marcus pulled up a specification. Aerogel reinforced carbon fiber. It's what we use for spacecraft on Earth. Strong enough to withstand atmospheric entry, light enough that a cubic foot weighs less than a pound. We have nothing like that in our materials library. Look, silicon dioxide, carbon fiber mesh, supercritical drying chambers. Your people use these for different applications, but the principle is the same. Theron watched the child's face transform. Hope was dangerous, but so was its absence. He'd seen soldiers without hope. They were already dead, just waiting for the body to catch up. We'd need to test it, Nira said. We'd need to build a prototype. We'd need to build several prototypes, Marcus corrected. The first 3 will probably fail. The 4th might work. The 5th will definitely work. How do you know? Because that's how invention works. Edison failed 1,000 times before the light bulb succeeded. The Wright brothers crashed their plane 40 times. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the price of admission. The Queen stepped from the shadows. How long? Marcus turned, not startled, despite Theron's certainty that he hadn't heard her approach. For a working prototype? 6 weeks. Maybe 8. You have 4... Your Majesty, the Festival of First Flight occurs in 4 weeks. Every child who turned 6 this year will perform their ceremonial flight before the entire kingdom. Nira will join them, or the question of her belonging will be answered permanently. Theron saw Marcus's jaw tighten. That's not enough time to ensure safety. If the design fails mid-flight, then you will catch her. The Queen's eyes found Theron. Won't you, Captain? Yes, Your Majesty. 4 weeks, Ambassador. Prove that different isn't broken. Or prove that I was wrong to hope. The Queen's wings spread, catching lamplight. I suggest you both get some rest. You look exhausted. She departed, leaving silence in her wake. Nira's small hand touched Marcus's arm. She's scared. What? Mother, she's scared that I'll fail, that I'll be hurt. But she's more scared that I'll give up. The child's purple eyes were far older than 6 years. She needs this to work as much as I do. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we'd better make it work. Theron watched them work through exhaustion and frustration and the 1,000 small failures that Marcus had promised. The first frame collapsed under its own weight. The second worked, but was too heavy for Nira to wear. The third achieved lift, but couldn't be controlled. The fourth nearly worked, achieving stable flight for 7 seconds before the left control surface jammed and sent the test dummy spiraling into a safety net. We're running out of time, Nira said on day 23. Her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Marcus looked worse. Humans apparently needed more rest than Etherians, but he refused to take it. We're running out of traditional approaches, Marcus corrected. He stared at the mangled 4th prototype. We've been thinking about this wrong. What do you mean? We've been trying to mimic natural flight. But your people's wings work through muscle control. Thousands of tiny adjustments every second, all managed by instinct and biology. We can't replicate that with mechanical systems. Theron leaned forward despite himself. What's the alternative? Marcus looked at him, then at Nira. We embrace the machine. Stop trying to make it feel natural, make it feel powerful. He pulled up a new design on the holographic display. This frame was different, heavier looking, with visible thrusters instead of concealed ones. The control surfaces were larger, more aggressive. It looked less like a bird and more like a fighter jet. This will never pass for natural flight, the Queen said from the doorway. None of them had heard her enter. Theron's wings twitched in embarrassment. It's not supposed to, Marcus said. Your Majesty, every winged child at the festival will fly the same way. Beautiful, instinctive, identical. But she'll fly faster, higher, and more powerfully than any of them. You're proposing my daughter become a spectacle. I'm proposing she become a legend. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Explain. Marcus gestured to the design. This frame uses directed thrust instead of wing surface area. Nira controls it through handlebar inputs, like riding a bicycle, which is a human vehicle. She banks by shifting her weight. She climbs by increasing throttle. She dives by reducing it. It's not instinctive flight. It's learned skill. And learned skill can be perfected. And she's brilliant. Marcus looked at Nira. Show them! Her small hands moved over controls with practiced precision. On the holographic display, a virtual figure wearing the new frame design launched from the ground, banked hard left, climbed at a steep angle, performed a barrel roll, and landed with perfect precision. Terran's breath caught. The Queen's wings spread fully. You programmed that sequence? The Queen asked. I calculated it, Nira said quietly. Ambassador Chen taught me the physics. I taught myself the execution. Theron, the Queen said without looking away from the display. What's your assessment? The captain studied the design with a warrior's eye. The thrust system could fail. The control mechanism requires conscious thought instead of instinct, which means slower reaction time in emergencies. So it's dangerous. All flight is dangerous, Your Majesty. The question is whether the pilot can manage the risk. He looked at Nira, and I believe she can. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Build it. The frame was a masterpiece of engineering. Aerogel carbon fiber, strong enough to support 3 times Nira's weight, but light enough that she could lift it over her head. The thrusters used compressed liquid gas, providing 3 minutes of continuous flight or 10 minutes of intermittent use. The control surfaces were coated in a reactive polymer that stiffened or flexed based on electrical current, giving Nira fine control over her trajectory. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. We need to test it, Marcus said on the morning of the festival. There's no time, the Queen replied. The ceremony begins in 3 hours. Your Majesty, we can't send her up without... We can't and we will. Nira, do you understand the risk? The child nodded. I might fall. I might die. I cannot command you in this. The choice must be yours alone. You can walk away. Right now. No shame. No judgment. You will still be my daughter. You will still be loved. Nira looked at the frame, then at Marcus, then at her mother. Will I still be Etherean? Always. Then I'm not walking away. The festival of first flight took place in the Grand Canyon of Winds, a natural amphitheater carved by 10,000 years of storm. Every citizen of the kingdom gathered on the canyon walls, wings spread in anticipation. 12 children stood at the ceremonial platform, their new wings gleaming in triple moon light. 11 children had biological wings. 1 wore a mechanical frame. The crowd's murmur rose like thunder. Citizens of Etheros, the Queen's voice echoed across the canyon. Today we witness the ancient tradition of first flight. Each child will leap from this platform and prove their wings worthy. Each child will claim their place in the sky. Theron stood at the platform's edge, wings ready. If Nira fell, he would catch her. It was his duty, his oath, his certainty. But watching the child adjust her frame straps, checking thrust levels with practiced precision, he realized his certainty might be misplaced. She wasn't preparing to be saved. She was preparing to fly. The first child leaped, a boy named Kale, his silver wings catching air currents with instinctive grace. He soared, banked, climbed, and the crowd cheered. The second child followed, then the third. Each flight was perfect. Each flight was identical. Nira watched them all, her hands steady on her control grips. You're last, Marcus whispered beside her. They saved you for last. I know. Are you ready? No, Nira smiled slightly.
But I'm going anyway.
The 11th child completed their flight to thunderous applause. Then silence fell as Nira approached the edge. The Queen's voice rang out again. My daughter was born without wings. She was born different. Today, she flies different. Nira's hands tightened on the controls. The thrusters hummed to life, a sound alien to Etherean ears. She didn't spread wings. She ignited jets. She didn't catch the wind. She conquered it. She jumped. For one terrible second, she fell. The thrusters sputtered. The frame tilted wrong. Theron's wings spread to dive. Then Nira adjusted. Her small hands made 1,000 tiny corrections in an instant. The thrusters roared to full power. She didn't soar. She rocketed upward, climbing faster than any biological wing could manage. The crowd gasped. Nira banked hard left, pulling forces that would have strained an adult flyer. She dove, accelerated, pulled up at the last possible second, and shot straight up again. At the apex of her climb, she killed the thrusters and spread her arms, hanging motionless for one perfect moment against the 3 moons. Then she dove again, this time spiraling, her mechanical frame cutting through air with precision no natural wing could match. She wove between the canyon walls, her trajectory calculated and perfect. She performed a barrel roll that drew shouts from the crowd, and she landed exactly where she'd started, thrusters cutting off with perfect timing, her feet touching the platform without a stumble. Silence. Then the canyon erupted. Not just applause. Screaming, wing-beating, stomping chaos. The 11 children who'd flown before her spread their wings in salute. The crowd's roar shook stone. Nira stood motionless, chest heaving, eyes wide. Marcus reached her first. You did it. I flew different. No. The Queen landed beside them. her own eyes wet. You flew better. This moment would echo through history. The wingless child who conquered the sky. The human who taught impossibility. The queen who chose hope over tradition. Dangerous moments, all of them. But perhaps danger was the price of progress. Later, after the crowds dispersed and the moon set, Theron found Marcus standing at the cliff edge where this had all begun. "You're thinking about your daughter," the captain said. "Always." Marcus didn't turn. I sent her a message. Told her about Nira. Told her that different isn't broken. What did she say? She said she already knew that, and that she's proud of me. Marcus smiled. Then she told me about her latest climb. Apparently she's designing a new rig that uses magnetic grips instead of mechanical ones. It says it'll let her climb surfaces no one's climbed before. Innovation runs in families. I suppose it does. The Queen is arranging a formal exchange program. Human engineers will come to Ethros. Etherian scientists will visit Earth. She believes your species has much to teach us about adaptation. And what do you believe, Captain? Instead, I witnessed a launch. Theron's wings spread slightly. I believe that makes me obsolete. Not obsolete, repurposed. Marcus finally turned to face him. Someone needs to teach the next generation of mechanical flyers. Someone needs to keep them safe while they learn. Sounds like a job for a captain. A grounded captain? A captain who understands that sometimes the ground is where you build the impossible? Theron considered this. In 30 years of service, he'd defined himself by wings and duty. Perhaps it was time to define himself by wisdom instead. I'll consider it, he said. Because Nira's already designing version 2 of her frame. She wants it to go twice as high and 3 times as fast. Marcus grinned. Someone's going to need to stop her from killing herself. Or help her succeed without dying. Even better. They stood together at the cliff edge, wingless human and winged captain, both understanding that the ground beneath their feet was more than just a place to launch from. It was a place to build futures. In the royal chambers, Nira slept with her frame beside her bed, one hand still resting on the control grip. She dreamed of clouds and speed, and the moment when thrust became flight became freedom. The Queen watched her daughter sleep, her own wings folded in quiet contemplation. Tomorrow would bring challenges, conservative factions who resisted change, practical concerns about expanding the program, questions about tradition versus innovation, but tonight her daughter had flown different, powerful, perfectly herself, and that was worth any future challenge. Outside, the 3 moons set and the sun rose on a kingdom where wings were no longer destiny, where difference was no longer defeat, and where a human father's love had built what biology couldn't. They called it the wingless flight, Nira's achievement. But those who understood knew it was more than that. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or innovation or engineering brilliance. It was the refusal to accept that impossible meant impossible. It was the stubborn, beautiful insistence that every child deserved to fly, and the determination to build wings for those who had none. That was the real human superpower. And the galaxy was only beginning to understand its implications.